Experiences with Krishnamurti and His Teachings Part 5. 1984 to 1986. Harshad, Parekh. I arrived in Varanasi on November 1 to listen to K's talks. There was curfew in the city due to Indira Gandhi's assassination. K decided to cancel his talks in Varanasi this year. However, he arrived on November 10 and gave 2 talks on November 11 and 12. He spoke on security, fear, self, meditation, religious mind, and death. On 11th, he had lunch with all campers in the dining hall. He planted some trees. I came close to him several times but did not speak with him. Our plan of returning to Rishi Valley was cancelled 3 times due to bad weather. As a result, we could attend K's talk with teachers of Rajphat School. He spoke about the teacher's responsibility, the present situation in the world, infinite capacity of the brain and its deterioration by conditionings. He invited us to participate in the discussion. I asked him, is not our primary responsibility to find freedom from the self and the psychological problems associated with it? What can we teach or communicate when we are not free? He said that we do not have to be free first and then teach. In discussing with students we learn about ourselves. We should not discuss with a position of authority. In the atmosphere of friendly and open discussions we begin to learn about our conditioning. I asked, is it only by discussing with students do we learn about ourselves? He answered, of course not. We learn about ourselves in the mirror of relationship. One lady teacher from Vasantha College said, even when we know about our conditioning, we do not be free. We continue with our faults. K asked her several questions about her relationship with students. She answered gently but confidently. Sahita from Rajphat School also joined the discussion. She also spoke gently and clearly. Several times K held her fingers in his hands. Dennis also joined in the discussion. K asked him several questions to understand him. He answered hesitantly. The discussion lasted for 2 hours. People sitting at the back were relieved when the discussion ended. On November 19, K had a discussion with students of Rajphat School. The students were unable to express themselves in English. Only 2 boys and 1 girl participated in the discussion. What K spoke was beyond their capacity to understand. He stopped after 1 hour but students wanted him to continue. In the evening, pundits of Varanasi chanted in the presence of K. They had powerful voices but the hall was too small for the sound. K arrived in Rishi Valley on December 2. He had a discussion with students on December 7. Some boys and girls of Class 8 participated in the discussion. It was a lively discussion. K was happy and intense. The topics for the discussion were prejudice, comparison, insecurity, infinite capacity of the brain, etc. The questions asked were, is understanding someone a prejudice too? What is it that gets hurt when someone insults you? Why does one compare? Can a confused brain free itself? K was impressed by Ajit Pai's questions. On December 8, K had a discussion with teachers. He spoke for about 40 minutes about the role of educator in the world, our relationship with the world, corruption and disintegration, authority and cooperation. When he invited comments or questions, I said, cooperation is not possible when we have self-interest. He said, it is a nice statement. Do you have self-interest? I hesitated but said, I do not have self-interest in my work with the school. He said that we hide our self-interest in the pretext of nationalism, religious beliefs, ideas, etc. Radhika asked some questions about self-interest, clarity, and independence. K was gentle with her. He asked her to sit beside him and discuss gently with her. Mr. Punt, JP, and Hiralal also joined in the discussion. K said that thinking is common to all of us. I said, because we think, self arises. From self comes, self-interest. K said, thinking itself is the cause of division. I and others did not agree. I said, from thinking arises the self. Then only it causes conflict. If the self does not arise, there is no conflict or division. K said, thinking itself is the cause of division. Do you understand that? I asked, it divides us from what? He was impatient with my question. He said that I did not listen to what he was saying. He would show it to me if I listened carefully. He explained every step logically. Thinking arises from memory. Memory is recorded due to experience and knowledge. Knowledge is limited or partial. So whatever is limited can never be whole. Thought being partial, it is divisive. Then he said, now ask. Jump on me. I said, in that case, everything we observe, think, feel is partial and divisory. Is there anything whole, complete, absolute? He said, you have to find out for yourself what exists when thinking ends. He seemed to say that in him the thinking had ended. I may not believe that. I had the right to explore, ask, and doubt. It was time to end the discussion. I could have asked more questions and made him more angry or impatient. K's discussion with teachers was quite intense on December 15th. He talked about the religious life. There is no security in life, and yet our brain cannot function well if it is in conflicts. For him, there is absolute security. In thought there can be no security because it is limited and divisive. I said, when we are thinking, we talk about security and insecurity. But when we are free from thoughts, we don't know what is security and what is insecurity. He said, you are not listening to what I am saying. I said, I was listening to you when you were talking with Pupilji. I can tell you what you were saying to her. He said, that means you were not listening. Forgive me if I say so respectfully. He talked about past, present, and future. All time is in now. We could not follow what he was saying. He was discarding the possibility of change in the future. I said, what you are now is not what you were when you were born. At some time, change occurred in you. He tried to answer but avoided. Professor Hiralal said, we are not moving from what we were discussing last time. You showed that there is no change as long as we are thinking, because thinking in itself is divisory. K said, you are not moving because you have not stopped. Pupilji and Achyuthji's dialogue was filmed on December 16 by a Malayalam film director. It was quite intense and interesting. K was not disturbed by lights going on and off every 5 minutes by the film crew. His mind was clear and alert. But why did he make sweeping statements like all saints were neurotic? How would he know without living with them? We went to Madras to listen to K's talks in the last week of December. Just before his talk on December 29, it started drizzling. K talked about the biological and psychological evolution. He said that time is not required for psychological evolution. We had lunch and dinner with K. He was watching us with curiosity. He seemed to be happy and loving when we left Madras on December 30, 1985. On December 3, at 9:30 a.m., K talked with the teachers of K schools. He began slowly describing the disintegrating world and our responsibility to create a new human being. He talked for most of the time. The discussion was not challenging enough. Very few teachers participated in the discussion. He asked, you work in this school for 30 years and spend enormous amount of energy. Yet you see students being absorbed in the corrupt world. Have you wasted your time and energy? I answered, it is not the wastage of energy. While teaching, we learn about ourselves. So even if students do not respond to us and conform to the corrupt world, we learn about ourselves. It is not wasting of time and energy. He asked, do you learn about yourself? I said, yes, sir. He asked, what do you mean by learning? I said, it is being aware of ourselves, how we live, think, etc. He asked, for how long? I said, it has nothing to do with time. It is learning moment by moment. He asked, what do you mean by learning? Is it like learning and accumulating and acting from the memory? Do you agree with me? I said, no. I do not agree with you. He said, we are not fighting or arguing with each other. Then he asked again, what do you mean by learning? He talked about learning a language, some skills which require memory. On the whole, it was a dull discussion. He asked, do you like this kind of discussion? I am used to this kind of stuff. I have talked with the top scientists, government officials, priests, etc. They say they have lot to learn but they remain the same. He also said, basically I am a shy person. You may not believe what I am saying. On December 5th, K talked with boys and girls of Rishi Valley School about fear. Firdaus, Prashant, and other juniors talked with him. K asked, what is the feeling of fear? Boys and girls gave many answers but he was not happy with the answers. Firdaus gave the genuine answer, heart beats faster, muscles contract when fear arises. His gestures and movement of eyes made me laugh for a long time. On December 8th, I wrote a letter to K. I wrote, Beloved Krishnaji, I am writing this letter to expose my mind. I am sure you can see through it and make useful comments. If you have time to discuss the contents of my mind, it would be very useful. I came into contact with your teachings in 1972 when I was a student at Iowa State University. It made a great and immediate impact on my life. In few months, there were noticeable changes in me. I read most of your books from 1972 to 1979. During those years I went through many experiences of different kinds. I wrote several letters to you describing those physical, biological, experiences of body, brain, and perception. After coming to Rishi Valley in 1979, my body has become very sensitive to what is happening within. The brain is throbbing day and night with pulses which are neither painful nor pleasurable. These pulses are felt in various parts of the body as well. Occasionally a tingling sensation occurs in the back. A cricket-like sound created within the ear is heard all the time. I am curious to understand what is happening. Is it possible for you to comment on such experiences? It seems to me that the thinking process is the secondary process. Its root lies in the biochemical process occurring within the brain. What causes the change in biochemical process in the body? A voice within me says, don't get trapped in experiences. Sensitivity of body and experiences related to it are far from truth. Is your mind free from thoughts, images, conclusions? Are your nights very peaceful and free from dreams? Is your mind like an empty drum which gives sound only when it is struck? Ask these questions and observe in silence. You have lot to learn. Lovingly, Harshad Parekh. On December 9th, K gave the last talk for the teachers. I was late by few minutes and so I sat very close to the door. I could neither see him nor could I listen to him. But in front of me was a lovely plant. I looked at its green and chocolatey leaves which radiated light. At the end of the talk, I delivered my letter to him. I met Kay and others walking on the main road several times. I went for cycling in the evening. While coming back to school, I saw them. Sometimes we raised our hands to greet each other. Kay talked to the students on December 11th. He seemed to be tired of talking. He repeated his words. Students got bored. Very few students participated in the discussion. Boys wanted to know about his life. But he found it difficult to remember the events of his life. Lynn asked, why our minds keep on thinking? Why are we concerned about ourselves most of the time? He talked about memory, experience, time, etc. There was a conference of educators for 4 days from December 13 to 17. There were intense discussions on the aim of K schools. The Indian schools were not so intense about K's teachings. These schools seemed to be more concerned with curriculum, teaching methods, training of teachers, and excellence in academics. The schools in the West were passionate on K's teachings. The excellence in academics was of secondary importance. Both David Moody and Scott Forbes spoke passionately on creating the new mind. The Indian speakers seemed more relaxed and well settled in their ideas and work. K spoke passionately and affectionately at the end of the conference. In his presence we had a feeling of wholeness. He asked, what is life? What is creation? What is goodness and what is the new mind? 1986. On February 17, Mr. Narayan announced in the assembly hall that K had passed away in sleep at 1 a.m. in California. I did not feel sad, but when a girl started crying, I was touched. I could not sleep at night. I wrote the following words in my diary about K. He lived an extraordinary life, full of activities and meditation. He affected thousands all around the world. He loved and was greatly loved too. He was the greatest man I ever came across and who affected my life more than any living or dead person in the history of mankind. A man dies but his memories remain. His teachings are extraordinarily revolutionary in the sense that he rejects memories as the dead weight of the past. Man must live in the present and be passively alert to the ways of his thoughts and feelings. Listen to this man on the subject of life and death. On the journey of life and death, you must walk alone. On this journey there can be no taking of comfort in knowledge, in experience, in memories. The mind must be purged of all the things it has gathered in its urge to be secure. Its gods and virtues must be given back to the society that bred them. There must be complete uncontaminated aloneness. He showed the way to freedom not only through his brilliant talks, discussions, and inspired writings but also through his own life. K is gone but his teachings will remain alive in the lives of those who find the teachings challenging. Experiences with Krishnamurti and his teachings. End of Part 5 and the series. Harshad Parekh.